Welcome back to another vid. So about 10-15 minutes ago I just finished watching a video by Pixie Dust, and that video was called the Getting to Know You tag. Now I've been making videos for about 8 years, I think very nearly 8 years, or maybe just surpassed that. So yeah, the chances are you probably know me a little bit already, but it's a fun video. I've not made one for a while, lazy. I do intend to make a vlog on Friday, but it may well be next Friday, we'll see. And yes, I just thought I'd give it a go. Now, even though it's Pixie Dust's response that I'm responding to, or her video that I'm responding to, I believe the video was made by somebody else. I'm not familiar yet, at least, with that channel. So I believe it's, I'm just looking now, I've got it in the corner. It's by Lisa Loves, but I'm not sure of Lisa's channel. At least I don't think I am. It'd be embarrassing if I click on a channel and it says I'm subscribed. So, but I'll have to check that out later. But yeah, so Pixie Dust did the response. There's 10 questions altogether, and I'm going to answer them. And if you want to, please feel free to tag along, if you want, so to speak. Question number 1. Tell us about the first movie you loved and how it shaped your love for movies, or love of movies, I guess, technically. I'm going to have to go with Star Wars, but here's the thing. I'm not sure that it really shaped my love of movies as such. I'm just going for Star Wars. And by the way, when I say Star Wars, I mean the original trilogy, and not so much the first one. I wasn't born when the first one came out. I was very young when Empire Strikes Back came out, to the point of I was like 1, 2 maybe. But Return of the Jedi, even though I was still a kid, I do remember it a little bit, and especially a few years after, because really about 3, 4, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, the toys were still in the shops. You know, the franchise was still really big, so it shaped part of me, of who I am as a person, let alone my love of movies. But yeah, it was just a brilliant movie. I think it stands the test of time, the trilogy, really the original trilogy, that is, not the sequels, not the sequels, what do you call them, that? The prequels, I guess, from the late 90s. That's another video, quite frankly. Although I've only seen them once each, and it was when they came out, so maybe I should really watch them back, and I might change my opinion. But yeah, the original Star Wars trilogy for me, everything about it just encapsulates a great era, I think, of like sci-fi as well. I think they hold up really well, the characters, the story, the good side, the bad side to it, the light side, the dark side, and the contrasting styles to it. The fact that Darth Vader and you know, that his son and daughter is Leia and Luke. I mean, there's so many things about it. It's just great plot twists, and it still looks really good. You'd never believe, even the special effects, which are not exactly modern day, but they still hold up pretty well. So I'm going to say Star Wars, the original trilogy, although technically it's not strictly answering the question, because I don't think it shaped my love of movies as such, other than being maybe some of the first ones I watched. So we'll move on to question number 2, which is, tell us a little about the music you enjoy. Well, as you can see, quite a lot of music behind. Vinyl, CDs, I've got more as well. Yeah, I love music, and I love all genres, give or take a couple. And so, yeah, I'm pretty eclectic, to say the least. Whether it's pop, whether it's rock, indie rock, Britpop, bit of soul. I mean, even things like in more recent years, jazz, classical. Now, I'm not massively into them, but I've started to kind of open the door to allow them in that little bit. And maybe in the future, hopefully many years from now, not, you know, I don't think it'll be happening next kind of 2 or 3 years, but maybe 10, 20 years and further on down the line, I think jazz and classical could be something I kind of really get into. Something that if you'd have told me 10, 15 years ago, I'd have laughed in your face. But I think as you get older, you know, your taste buds kind of get that little bit more diverse, and you're open to listening to more things. So yeah, I'm pretty much eclectic. Bands, I guess. Well, I mean, Oasis are a great band, of course. Things like the Beatles, you might have heard of them. The Rolling Stones, Sex Pistols, but even things like New Wave, Duran Duran, punk rock, Adam and the Ants, you know, but even cheesy pop like the Kylie and the Jason, you know, Bros. I love all that kind of stuff. Nirvana, Guns N' Roses. So yeah, I'm pretty eclectic. And I do keep meaning to make my music vids on this channel. I keep forgetting. But I will do that maybe in the next week or 2. Every time I say that, like 3 months goes by and I've not done it. Question number 3. What thing are people most surprised to know about you? Well, I guess if we're talking about YouTube, maybe the fact that I'm in America, possibly. And if we're talking about real life outside of YouTube, but still keeping the American thing. Maybe when I start speaking to people, people here, i.e. Americans, are surprised that I'm British. They hear the accent and it takes them by surprise. So it's always a conversation starter, and that's one of the good things about it. But also one of the things I don't like about it is that it makes me stick out like a sore thumb over here. It really does. And the accent as well. I find I can feel myself and hear myself doing it now. I enunciate and I talk a lot slower because they haven't got a clue what I'm talking about in America if I don't. So I kind of really have to pronounce my P's and my Q's and T's, and it's ridiculous. But when I go on a roll, when I go off on something, or when I'm on a roll, I should say, then I think the accent kind of comes flying out. It depends on the context, who I'm talking to, what I'm talking about, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe that's the answer to the question. That most surprises people in America that I'm British, and maybe surprises people on YouTube that I'm in America, because it's quite unusual, I guess. I can't think of too many people I'm subscribed to, at least, who make YouTube vids and live in another country. There's a few, of course. Question number 4, tell us a random fact about you. So I was thinking, what fact could I use which I've not used before in 8 years of making vids? And I don't think I've mentioned this one. It's not a good one. It's not particularly good anyway. It's kind of like a double fact, 2 for the price of 1. So it would have been on the 14th of May of 1988. Very specific. And so I'd have been 9 or 10 years of age. And out of all the weekends to go looking for houses to buy a new house, I think at least me, mum and dad wanted to buy a new house, or they were looking, maybe nosiness, I'm not sure. But out of all the weekends to pick to look, they wanted to look on Cup Final Day. How annoying. You know, back then the FA Cup Final was massive. It's still big now, but back then obviously it was really, really huge. It was a big deal to get to the Cup Final and a huger deal to win it. So all the country, it seemed, back then to me as a kid, everybody watched it. And so I wanted to watch it. So on the morning that I found out we were going to be looking at houses, I was furious. Couldn't believe it. Now the Cup Final, of course, was famously won by Wimbledon. They beat Liverpool. I'm not a Wimbledon or a Liverpool fan, but it was still a Cup Final and I wanted to watch it. The biggest day in the footballing calendar back then, as I say. So yeah, I was furious to be finding out we were going to be looking at houses. But the funny thing about it, fact number 1, is on that day, I watched the FA Cup Final of 1988, 14th of May, in about 15 different houses. Because every house we went to, they had it on in the living room, or the kitchen, or the bedroom, or wherever they were watching it. So invariably, we'd go into the house, it would be on in the living room, someone would be in there watching it, and then I'd stay there watching it with whoever lived there, or sometimes just on my own, while the owners showed my parents and my younger sister, who would only have been about 2 or 3 at the time, around the house. And so we'd watch it for like a few minutes, and then we'd go off to another house, and then I'd catch the next kind of 10-15 minutes in another house. It was ridiculous. So who else has done that? That must be a world record. Who has watched the Cup Final or any programme in multiple houses? It's absolutely stupid. But yeah, so I really vividly remember that. And that was the same day, this is fact number 2 coming up, where we were looking at one particular house. And just to paint the picture, we were looking at houses in Manchester, in the centre of Manchester, and in Warrington and Newton Le Willows, which is like kind of surrounding areas in between Manchester and Liverpool. And one house we went to was, I think, just on the outskirts of Newton Le Willows. And so we went into this house, we looked around, all the rest of it, going from room to room, all the rest of it, as I say. And I do specifically remember the owner of the house going, and if you look outside, you see that house opposite, like to the left, and we were like, yeah, yeah. And they were like, that's, and my memory's a little bit shady, I can't remember exactly, but it was one or the other. But the woman said, that's where Rick Astley's mum or dad, because I think they split up when he was quite young. But either way, his mum or his dad, or his mum and his dad, or maybe his stepmom, something like that, they lived in that house. So I think it might have been the house that Rick Astley grew up, maybe. But certainly his parents, or one of his parents, lived in that house. And we were like, oh, how cool is that? Because at the time, 1988, of course, Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. That was in the charts probably the year before. What else did he have? Like Together Forever. Other Rick Astley songs. I'm not going to embarrass myself by mentioning them all. I do have one of his records. What? I told you, eclectic. So anyway, so that's important. I point that out to you. Rick Astley's parents, or one of his parents' houses. So they lived there. So we looked around the house. We left the house, because obviously we finished looking around. We were just about to get into the car to go home or to go to another house. and I needed to go to the toilet. So I turned around to my mum and I went, oh, I need to go to the toilet. I need to pee. And she was furious. You know, she's like, why do you need to go now? You could have went when we were in the house. And I was like, well, I didn't need on then. It was like at school. Do you remember that? Where like it would be 20 minutes after lunchtime and you needed to go to the toilet and you go up to the teacher and go, oh, miss, I need to go to the toilet. And she'd always go, or he, why didn't you go at lunchtime? I didn't need on then. You can't force it. So anyway, so I really needed to go for a pee, basically. And, but I couldn't go in the middle of the street. Couldn't really knock on the person's door and go, sorry, can we just use your bathroom? We might not buy your house, but can we use your bathroom anyway? Couldn't really do that. But what we noticed in Rick Astley's parents', or one of his parents' garden, is the garden fence was open. Now usually, or the gate, I should say. Now usually that's an indication to stay away because they might be there. Why would the gate be open? They might be going back and forth. But for whatever reason, to me mum, she was like, gate's open, maybe you should just go there. Go around the side of the gate. If anyone's there, obviously, just don't do it. But if no one's there, then do what you got to do and then come back. So I gingerly kind of walked over there. The gate was open. I was paranoid. I thought, well, someone's just going to come out at any minute. It could have been Rick Astley. Could have been visiting his mum or his dad. So I went in there. I'm not going to talk you through the details, but I did what I did quite quickly because I was nervous and got out there. But even at the time, I thought it was really funny because I thought, Rick Astley, because who didn't like, all these songs at the time? He was massive. Never Gonna Give You Up was a huge song. Still is, always will be. So so that's my fact number 2. Bit of a rubbish kind of double fact story. Is the fact that I watched the cup final in many different houses in Manchester and surrounding areas. And fact number 2 is I had a pee in Rick Astley's parents', one of his parents', back garden. Absolutely ridiculous. So there we are. Question number 5 is, what is the top item on your bucket list? I just haven't really got a bucket list at all, let alone top item. I think some of the things maybe I'd like to do, maybe it's a shame really, because I'd love to go to some of the countries which are kind of maybe very sort of war-torn or perceived as being very dangerous. At least that's how, like I say, the media portrays it, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure they're not lying about it. Places in like Iran and Iraq, Israel for that matter, they all look very nice with the buildings, if you ignore all the war that's going on. Obviously that's not nice. And terrorism and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the history and the buildings and the architecture and all that kind of stuff, it does look very nice. Italy as well. Not so much war-torn there, of course. I'd like to go to Italy. One of my best friends married an Italian a few years ago, and they're talking about moving to Italy. So, could be an excuse to go there. But other than that, other than visiting countries, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just travel, I think, really. Question number 6. Share a pet peeve with us. Oh, it's got to be timekeeping, lateness, etiquette. People who are late, it winds me up. Like, I tell you what, I live in America, as you probably know, and I mentioned it earlier on in the vid, and in California. And one of the stereotypes, one of the many, of California is that people are really chilled out. But it's true. In my experience, anyway, of living here for 10 years, people are way too chilled, overly relaxed, to the point where, and this has happened to me dozens of times, including about 4 or 5 recently, i.e. the past sort of 2 or 3 months, where you'll arrange an appointment, you'll arrange someone to come round, like we needed some garden work or yard work done. We needed like a couple of trees taken down, which makes it sound like we own this massive 300-acre land. Obviously, it's not the case. But there's some trees at the back there that just needed taken down. And so we called someone up and we were like, well, we need this done. When can you come round? They were like, oh, well, how does next Tuesday at 10 o'clock sound? Fine, brilliant. Comes to Tuesday at 10 o'clock, no one turns up. So what the hell's going on? So I had to call them like 3 hours later and they're like, oh, sorry about that, forgot. How about next Tuesday? Totally ridiculous. And then there's another time where we needed this is more recently, some electrical work done. And I can't be bothered because I'm lazy to do it myself and I don't want to get an electric shock. So I called up an electrician. They know what they're doing after all. And they were like, right, well, we can only make it on Friday, like 2 weeks from now. So you've got to kind of book in advance. Is Friday 8:30 in the morning going to be all right? Well, obviously it's very early. Have to change a few plans. But okay, I'll see you there. Come the day, 8:30 in the morning, nobody turns up. Absolutely ridiculous. And it's happened so often. You've no idea, really. So, yeah, it's a pet peeve is lateness. If you're going to say you're going to be there at 10 o'clock, be there at 10. Or be there a couple of minutes before. I just don't understand. So Californians are just too relaxed for me. It's ridiculous. It annoys me. It annoys me even more because as I get older, I definitely am turning into more of a Victor Meldrew by the day. Definitely, it's happening. Question number 7. What was your favourite or least favourite, I should say, least favourite subject at school? Favourite subjects, I think PE, if you can call it a subject, running around, playing football and cricket and rugby. Yeah, PE, I liked English, literature and language. I was pretty good at history, so I liked that. Geography, I didn't mind geography. I didn't like science. I was rubbish at it. If there was a Bunsen burner there, we were setting fire to things, and then the smoke alarms are going off and everything was ridiculous. I wasn't a bad kid or anything like that, but we just thought it was funny. Until we got into trouble and then we didn't do it again. So yeah, I wasn't very good at science. It just kind of went over my head. And maths as well. I was never particularly good at maths. Great at times tables and division, subtraction, which is almost all the maths in its entirety, I guess. But for whatever reason, when it comes to getting my head around everything else, pi and all that kind of stuff, oh no, forget it, I just couldn't do it. But your timetables in particular, I was pretty good at those. But maths, I didn't enjoy it. Art, I didn't mind art, but I was rubbish at it. Unless you want stickmen drawn for you, then I'm not your man. If you want stickmen, come to me, I'll sort you out. But the reason why I took art for GCSE was some of my best friends did it. There's a core group of us, and the majority of people, of my friends, took art. So I thought, well, I'll do it as well. But it was really embarrassing sitting next to them, where they were drawing these literal works of art, and then mine was just like stickmen. It was just awful, and I felt self-conscious and embarrassed at the time, I really did. But who cares, you know, I kind of enjoyed drawing, just wasn't very good at it. But if I'm not going to pick maths, and if I'm not going to pick science, I'm going to go for one called design and communication, which was essentially kind of like woodwork and metalwork, and I hated it. I don't know why I took it. I guess it was a better alternative to what other options were there at the time for my GCSEs. So yeah, design and communication, just I had utter delusions of grandeur, and I thought I could make a football stadium. Obviously on a small scale, not on a proper full-size stadium, that'd be quite absurd. It was just going to be a small one made of like wood, and I'd paint it and I'd put the little crowd in, or I'd use like Subbuteo figures as the crowd, all that kind of stuff. And that was my aim. And I thought, well, I'll do that, and I'll do all the paperwork for it, and the folders, and the brainstorming. And I did all the latter bit, the brainstorming, the art, writing about it, talking the talk. It was brilliant. You know, if we just had like work marked for paperwork, then I'd have got a 10 out of 10 or a grade A or whatever it would have been. But it wasn't just that. We had to make a model as well. And I'm not even joking. The whole year, the whole term went by and I didn't make anything. I kept meaning to, but it dawned upon me quite quickly, really, that this project that I've got is going to be hard. A football stadium, the intricate designs of the stands and all that kind of stuff. I just couldn't really do it. So the paperwork was fantastic. I had that sorted to a T. It was brilliant, if I say so myself. But I just didn't actually make the model. And on the very last day, I remember it like it was yesterday, the teacher called Mr. Durham. He come up to me, and I was literally just about to leave. I had my backpack on and everything, a school blazer, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, Alex, he says, I noticed you've got your paperwork out. Because what was going to be happening that night was all the parents, I think, or the teachers, or people were going to be judging it and marking it. So on every desk where we were sitting, it would have our name tags, all the paperwork, as I keep saying, of our plans and our art and our designs and all that kind of stuff. And then next to it would be the model. And pretty much everyone, there was a couple of exceptions, but pretty much everyone had their model out, and I didn't. So I was about to leave for the day, on the day that I needed really to have something there. So he stopped me and he went, Alex, he says, you've not got a model there, what is it? And so I lied. And I said, oh, sorry, sir, you know, sir back then at school. I said, sorry, sir, I left it at home and I'm going out tonight. He says, well, you're going to have to go back and get it, or you're going to have, it has to be here for like the morning, basically. And he says, and if you don't, then you're going to have to put something there. He says, and this is the funny bit. Again, I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, even if you just go out in the back and get a piece of wood, he says, even if you put that there, he says, that's better than nothing. Now, I took him literally. He didn't mean that, of course. He was just trying to basically say, you need something there. But I took him literally. So he walks off after he said that, probably thinking to himself that surely I'm now going to go home and get the model and bring it in. But of course, I didn't actually make the model. But I took him literally and thought, well, yeah, good point, sir. Yeah, good point. maybe I should put a piece of wood there because it's better than nothing. So I went round the back in the wood room, or whatever it was called. Is there a room called the wood room? And I went through all the wood and I picked out the best bit of wood I could, where it was all like kind of finely shaved around the sides, so there was no splinters on there. And I looked at it, I thought, yeah, that's a good bit of wood, I'll use that. And I just literally brought it back in with me, and where my paperwork was and my name tag, I just put the piece of wood there. So that piece of wood was my stadium. And I walked by the teacher who was sitting at his desk, and he looked at me like I was the thickest human on planet Earth. Like, he must have been thinking, what is wrong with him? He actually did put a piece of wood there. So, but yeah, so that's what I did. So can you just imagine, the embarrassment, the hindsight of all the teachers or parents going looking at people's work, and then they would have seen at my desk just a piece of wood for my model. That was my work. That's my football stadium, a piece of wood. Rubbish. Really was. So I didn't get very good grades. My paperwork was good, but the model was just, it really brought it down to like a D or something like that. It was really bad. So it might even be worse than that. So, yeah, maybe for that alone, design and communication was my least favourite subject at school. But maths and science I just didn't like. Everything else, to be honest, I pretty much liked. So, yeah, and I'm one of those people with, I mean, I guess hindsight's great, isn't it? But I kind of liked school. I didn't love it, don't get me wrong. I bunked off once or twice, story for another day. And that was great. Got into trouble. Oh, unbelievable. But I quite liked school. It was all right. But there we go. Question number 8. What would your last meal and dessert be? God, I don't know. I think, to be honest, I was asked a similar question on one of my vlogs, maybe 2 or 3 back. I can't remember what I said. It may have been something like fish and chips, drowned in salt and vinegar, and old-fashioned as well, like in fish and chip paper, which probably isn't very good for you, with all the ink. Unless that's a myth, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd probably have that. And maybe for like a pudding or a dessert, something like, maybe I said this last time too, but like a cheesecake. Strawberry cheesecake, maybe orange cheesecake, something like that. Let's go with that. Question number 9. What advice would you give your younger self? I guess maybe save would be a good one. You know, I'm not at the poverty level, of course, but it would be nice if I'd have saved. You know, when I look back, when I started working, like back in the 90s, unbelievable, back in the mid to late 90s, getting my first job, I spent so much money, but I enjoyed it, that's the thing, so no regrets, but I spent so much money on like PlayStation games, on going to gigs, so it's great memories, so again, I wouldn't change it, on just going to the football, all that kind of stuff, and just flittering it away on rubbish, really. If I hadn't have done that, and had consistently saved, even just putting behind, you know, like 50 quid a month or something, or 20 quid a week, or whatever it would work out at, it would have been quite nice to have as an adult. I'm not too bad now at saving, to be fair, so I've kind of learnt my lesson, but I'd probably say save money, and then by the time you're whatever age, you've got a really nice amount in the bank there that can go towards a house, or buy a car, or whatever else, a really nice holiday, whatever it may be. So save. And also, and this is not so much advice that I give to my younger self, although maybe a little bit, but just advice to anyone in general, I'd say just be yourself, because the one thing that I've kind of learnt in as I've got older, and especially on YouTube as well, is that you can be the nicest person on planet Earth, you really can, but there's always going to be someone out there who doesn't like what you say, they don't like what you do, they don't like what you stand for, or what you believe, and so you can't possibly please everybody. So just do what you want to do for yourself, and if people embrace that and they like you for it, then great, and if they don't, then don't worry about it. Because on YouTube, again, specifically, there's so many people, I'm not going to embarrass them by naming them, but there are people out there who make videos that I subscribe, and I watch their channel, and some of the silly comments, spiteful, hateful, hurtful, really, comments that they get, dislikes and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing, on the video, they're just being really nice. They're being friendly, they're being normal, they're talking about something they're passionate about, they're not swearing, they're not being offensive, yet there's always somebody who's going to dislike them. So, yeah, just bear that in mind. There's always going to be someone out there who's not going to subscribe to what you do, so just be yourself. And as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Don't conform to what other people want you to be. I think that's really important. And then last but not least, question number 10, are there any upcoming events or holidays that you're looking forward to? I'd say the World Cup. I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I do love my football, I really do. I'm not as into it as I used to be. I don't cry anymore. I stopped doing that at 28. No, I'm obviously younger than that. I don't cry anymore or get really animated if my team loses. Whatever. It is what it is. Just win the next game. I'm not that bothered. So when I see all these like fan TV, Arsenal fan TV, Chelsea have got one, Man United, in fact most clubs have, and fans after games have been interviewed and they're just absolutely apoplectic with rage, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, seriously, get a grip, it's not that important. But I do still like my football, don't get me wrong. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I'd like to see England win. I don't want them to lose, obviously I want them to win, but they're probably not gonna get knocked out in the group stage. But also when it comes to football, having family, in fact if you go back like I think 2 or 3 generations, the whole English ties just get cut off completely. So it's Irish, it's Scottish, it's German, and of course now I live in America. So all those countries, England included of course, I want to see doing well at the World Cup, and of course some of those haven't even made the World Cup. Ireland didn't, America didn't, shockingly, and Scotland didn't. So Germany and England will get my support in this World Cup, but whether England will win, highly unlikely. And in terms of holidays, well, believe it or not, I have not been back to the UK since I've been here, so 10 years. It's finding the time, it's finding the money. See, if I'd have saved, could have done it. So yeah, finding the time, finding the money, it's getting time off. It's a number of factors involved in it. I just haven't done it. I've had family come over here a few times. I think the last time, who came over? My mum came over last time in sort of like October time, just before Thanksgiving, I think. So, and I think they may be coming over, my dad as well, maybe my sister as well, I'm not sure. Maybe next year, we'll see, time will tell. But I really should be going back to the UK, not just necessarily to live, that would be nice, one day, but certainly for a vacation, for a holiday. But time will tell. Anyway, that's it for this vid, to be honest. That's all 10 questions. If you want to do a response, then please feel free. Like I say, I'll put a link to Pixie Dust's channel or to her video, so you can watch that one if you want. And also to the originator, Lisa Loves, who I don't think I'm familiar with, but I will check out her channel. And if you want to do a response, please feel free. It's something a bit different. It's not gaming related, it's not music related, or whatever else you may do on your channel. But variety, as you'll know, for me is a big deal on my channel, and I like to break it up a little bit. So if you want to do the same, and especially if you've not done a video for ages, then maybe it can get you back into the swing of things. So anyway, until my next vid, which may be Friday, maybe after that, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.